Hey man,
That's right.
it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Oh, sure. Likewise, Joe. Thank you.
You bet. So before we get into your world of real estate, I want to know first and foremost, 5 years ago, something that rocked the foundation of real estate and everything else was the pandemic. We were knee deep into it. So many things were getting changed. How did you survive the pandemic and how is it reverberated into your work and what you do today?
Yeah. It definitely made it very difficult. I mean, that's the broad brushstroke for a lot of us, right?
Yeah.
You hear people talk about how you have to learn to pivot, and that's a great buzz term. But for me specifically, in real estate with the clients, with the real estate team, I had to look at, do I want to keep scaling the business? Do I need to wind it down? Which one actually achieves my goals? And then with the change in the market. I mean, I really had to get educated and I had to understand the other side of whoever I was working with. What did it feel like in the world of the clients? And the only people selling homes, for example, were and buying homes for that matter, were whoever needed to. It
Yeah.
was no longer a luxury, is no longer just we kind of feel like it. It was, no, did you have a baby? Did you need more bedrooms because of that? Did you get married, a divorce? Was there a death? Was there a job change? Like, there was only about 7 to 9 real major criteria and reasons that I needed to recalibrate everything I was doing toward, so I could still, I mean, my whole goal in all business is always, how much value can I provide? Actual, real, valuable, tangible. Somebody wants something that I can give. Well, so I had to redefine, what do they consider value? What do they want? And it had to change everything about how we did business, and who I leaned into. And so for me, I did shut my real estate team down and I went back to servicing clients, but I started servicing people more in a consultant role and in a investment and wealth creation role, and then business consultations and team building and culture and all that.
So kids always get to the heart of the matter and to get a better handle on exactly what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of 12-year-olds. It's career day. And one
Okay.
of the kids is like, hey, what do you do for a living? How do you
Yeah.
answer them?
I ask people what their goals are in life. Paint a picture. Tell me a story. And then I talk through the path to get there and what it's going to cost to get there. And then I help give them a roadmap that's custom to what they want in their goals. So if it's to live on a beach, okay, we'll talk about that. If it's to drive a fancy car, we'll talk about that. If it's to speak publicly or be known in your city as the expert, a branding component, anything like that, whatever someone wants, there is a very tangible way to get there. And I'm loaded with the hard knocks, the academia training and teaching in Lean and Six Sigma, the business successes and failures in my own right that have taught me, how can it not be so hard for someone else? And I'll help guide people through that roadmap that's already time tested and proven to time out when different components that they want in their life turn into reality.
So what did you want to be when you were 12 years old, when you were a kid?
Yeah, I remember laying in the grass, staring at the clouds, and I was always a dreamer, futuristic, and I thought, I want to own the top 2 floors of a skyscraper. And I was like, no, wait, I want to live in the top 2 floors of the skyscraper, build a staircase or an escalator between them, and have this really cool view, and own the entire building below me, and rent that out to people for businesses.
Yeah.
And I had no idea I would go into real estate.
Yeah.
Wasn't even a thought really, but that was me dreaming as a little kid.
So talk to me about the seeds, the foundational elements of your childhood. Where were you born and raised? What was
Yep.
planted into you that evolved into this career and dreaming and thinking big?
Yeah, definitely. I had divorced parents when I was about 3 years old, and I was raised primarily in my dad's house, and I saw my mom regularly, all relationships good and all that. As My dad, he owned his own auto mechanic shop, and it's in call it Omaha, Nebraska, small town off of that or smaller. And so I learned a very blue collar way of working hard. But then I watched him grow that business from just him to, 9 mechanics and front office staff And then I watched him shrink the business down and make more with a more on purpose build and design. He had me helping out with the QuickBooks. He also had me overhauling motors. That was the foundation of the hard work part of it. I watched his ability to come to anything that he wanted to, any of my sports events, my sister's dance recitals. He might have to go back to work that evening or work a Saturday, but that freedom really was a driving factor for me. And I can see it in different kids that I look at now that sometimes, if you're scolding a kid, they respond to that and they don't like it. Others, you scold them and they don't care. I mean, you can see that they're giving you the middle finger all over their face, and it doesn't do any good. Same thing with putting them in timeout. Some of them, it's a nice relief, and they got to get away from everybody.
Yeah.
I was this way. If somebody took away my freedom, my choice, I really flared against that. And so when I saw that being self-employed gave you freedom, even though it gave you a whole bunch of other hard pieces, I was good with the trade-off. That was a fit for me, and some of the other components. Working for somebody really it drove me mad, and I really had a hard time with that. And so that turned into being self-employed and having the entrepreneurial spirit, and then also being willing to work hard. And it developed into several companies since then. I've done computer programming since I was in grade school, and so I was able to start, as technology caught up and I followed it, I could build these technological workflows and automation and outsourcing, and I wasn't afraid of building systems that allowed somebody in other countries to work for me. And I could build a quality assurance setup that someone could work from afar, but I could oversee and make sure it's all good, and build a culture that people were inspired. I didn't need quite so many metrics. And
Yeah.
so that's some of the things that I end up helping and guiding and teaching, because I am a techie that can think very linear, very granular, but then this super softy empath that zooms way out into culture and inspiration design of the company on purpose. So that's been the guide.
So, being an entrepreneur, was there a client? Was there a moment? I mean, we all have to find our destiny. We have to find our path. What was when the rubber hit the road? What was the moment for you where you knew I can't work for anybody. I have to do this, and it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, mine it came in a few cycles. So I got a real estate license because I flipped a house, and my real estate agent made more than I did, and I took all the risk. Now I made a profit and he did a great job. So no harm there. But I was like, well, why don't I just get my own license? That's smart math, good margins. So I got a license and I joined his team, and it was just for my own investments. It wasn't for clients. But then my Lean Six Sigma consulting gig got taken away, or shut down, or the department closed. And I leaned into real estate a little bit, and that went really, really well. And then that next winter, real estate slows down a little bit. I grabbed another consulting job at a big data company, and they had me in a cubicle room. It was an older building, and it was all center, and the hallway goes around the outside. So that meant our whole area, there was zero windows. And it was just cubicles to walls, and you had two doorways, and it was no light. And it was rough, and I didn't enjoy it, but my sister's actually the one that told me. She goes, "Every day I talk to you, it sounds like part of you's disappeared. It sounds like you're a little more dead every single day." And it took that moment to realize that going back into working for somebody else, that I just couldn't ever go back to that again. And I had to find a way to make it work. My back was now up against the wall, that it
Yep.
was like, well, even if it's not real estate, if it's consulting, if it's whatever it is, had to find a way. I knew that that's where I fit.
That was it. So,
Yep.
who's been that inspiration for you? Who's been that heroic force that's allowed you to evolve into who you are today?
Yeah, I am. I've always struggled a bit with mentors, to be honest.
Yeah.
The reason why is I tried to find mentors, holistic mentors, and I tried to find somebody, but I learned somebody is often really great at business and terrible with their kids, or really great in their leisure activities and really bad in their marriage. Or. And so then as I got even more granular and I was like, okay, even in business, somebody's really good at inspiring people from afar, but terrible in one-on-ones. And so my mentor list became extremely long because I was giving everybody their one area.
Yeah.
And so I can look at figures that I'll look up to and people like that. But even so, I'm like, yeah, but I don't know about these four categories of their life. So it's not like I can sell out to them holistically, but I sure would love to have a lunch with them
Yeah.
and I would know which topics to stick to. So for me, in my, Gallup strength studying ways and consulting ways, I'm like, I like I like having a mentor in each and every category of my life. If I can get two or three things all in one person, oh, beautiful, I'll take it all day long. But for the most part, I keep it pretty separated when it comes to what someone's most gifted at.
So, in the realm of being an entrepreneur and being a real estate mogul, who out there do you admire? Who would you maybe want to run into? Ask some questions, see how they roll. Some of them might help you on your path.
Yeah, I've thought about this a few times, and it's a strange answer, sort of, but I'll explain it. So I would love to run into Ryan Reynolds. I like what it seems to be a very authentic way of living. Again, I don't know him personally, but I love how he's got a primary business. And I guess on the surface, one would call that his acting and his movies. But in reality, what he's done behind the scenes in business, I mean, I believe he's got a mobile cell company
Yep.
that he bought and or sold, but is still part of. You got Aviation Gin. You've got a bunch of different really smart, thought out moves. And that's the kind of learning that I would love to do. So anytime I find somebody that has you can find out that they have more going on than what they're showcasing.
Yeah.
I want to learn what their thought process was. How did they find it? What connection did they make? What were they looking for? What did they learn that they were looking for that was wrong and they now would do differently if they had it to do over? I think as odd as it is to choose an actor, I'm like, yeah, but it's not because of the acting, even though
Yeah.
I love all of his flipping movies, so it's
Yeah.
that's fine. Even his old ones that are obscure and strange, it's like great.
Your sound went out. There we go. Yeah. It,
Weird.
it's like it clicked off. Yeah. You know what's interesting about Ryan Reynolds is he owns that soccer team with that dude from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, no, I totally get what you're saying. He is one of those guys. Like, I thought for a while because it was Mint Mobile that he was just a spokesperson, but he runs it. So, yeah, those people that can diversify, like even The Rock has a tequila, and there's other people out there that, yeah. So, let me ask you this: is somebody that you brought this up before, somebody can be good in business and not so good in a marriage, or, with not having family time and all those things. What's been your philosophy on being a successful entrepreneur, taking care of your own soul and your family? How do you go about that? How do you make that work?
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds simple on the surface or on the beginning, but everybody will know instantly that this is actually hard to do. For me, it really came down to communication. And so again, yeah, Kumba, yeah, okay, buzzword, yeah, yeah, okay, I get it, I get it. I know what every viewer is saying right now. Um, but I communicated with my kids and I communicated with my significant other and I explained what I was going through. And I was actually emotionally vulnerable. And I let people know when I got devastated. And I would use those words. And I'd say, my heart is crushed right now. I do not have the steam, the capacity. I don't know how to find it. I'm going to keep trying, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to be the best me that I know I am when I'm rested and when I'm not being beaten in so many directions. And then when things were up, it was, of course, much easier. And I still communicated intentionally, though, because I've heard too many stories of people building businesses or ventures or landing a major contractor deal, and they come home to celebrate with their family has no idea what they're talking about, and it's just a Tuesday. And
Yeah.
there was no anticipation, there was no special dinner to celebrate together as a family. And I think every member of a family, they need to be celebrated for their big win and their success, including the individual parents or head of households. They need that too.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, as kids grow up, we all become pretty side by side equals that just do life together side by side. It's not like you get to keep parenting the kids.
Yeah.
They they eventually will listen to you as much as they would any other adult side by side friend and life doer. And they may have you in the best friend slot, or they may not, and they have limit the access. So I feel like starting that way, even when we're in the same household, I think that allowed me to then let people know. I mean, I would say words to my kids like, guys, it's my turn for my brain.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, we know what that means." And I'm because they're taking everything they can
Huh?
when they were 6 and 8 and all that. And since I started that so young, even when it didn't make sense, because I know a lot of parents would hear this and they'd go, "Yeah, Trevor, but my kids, they're only 4 and 6." And I'm like, I don't care. I know that it switches at about 10, 11, 12. And right there is when you really step into that next phase of side by side life doing and hoping they'll take your advice and listen to you just like a good adult friend would.
Yeah.
Right in there is that transition. And before that, it's pretty parent kid. But if that's the norm that they know is normal, well, how much better are they set up anyways for their 20s and 30s and beyond?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
So,
that was it.
yeah, no, I totally. So let me ask you this. If you walked into a room of everybody that's known you in a professional business, entrepreneurial, real estate sense, and because it can be serious work, you walk up to a podium with all of these people that know you in that sense, and you can tell them one fun story, one fun anecdote, first concert, wrestling a crocodile, out chasing a bear, something really cool, a great
Mm-hmm.
story. What would
Mm-hmm.
be a fun story you would tell that room?
Let's see, a fun story. I am definitely the yes man. I'm definitely the adventurer. You know, I remember I took my team on a trip down in uh, Mexico. We went to Playa del Carmen, stayed at an all-inclusive resort. It was part of the rewards program and sales incentive program. Great trip, all spent time together. And by the end of it, I'm just cashed. Well, I had learned by this time to book um, several days beyond what everybody else stays, or even switch resorts. And uh, and so everybody got on planes, and I saw the last group off, and I'm at the hotel and I'm just hanging out and it's just me. And I'm like, well, let's just go see what happens today. And I start wandering through and I go down into downtown and I get to see the shops and meet the people. And I had two or three people say hi to me by name that they had seen me either at the resort or elsewhere around. And so, and I'm 6'5",
Yeah.
and like you can imagine me walking around the streets of Playa del Carmen, I don't fit in. I stand out. Well,
Yeah.
then I had somebody run up to me and grab me that recognized me from years before. He worked at a skydiving place that we had gone, and he's like, "We have openings. Do you want to come jump?" And I'm like, I look at what I'm wearing, and it's good enough, sure. And
Yeah.
so I run with him, and I just go hop up in this plane, and we go cruising up over the ocean, and I dive out and get the video with the shiny glasses, and it looks epic and cool, and I'm just like, that's living. I mean, that
Yeah.
was one of those moments I was like, when you have the ability to just say yes to that, both in stability and in income, and you can go ahead and grab the moment, but also you're able to live that present and in the moment and just be free to go, yeah, it's
Why
a
not?
Thursday. Let's jump out of a plane over the ocean and land in the sand on Playa del Carmen. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah,
And that was
exactly.
fantastic.
That's great. This is the story I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for a jump out of an airplane, and this is my first
Really?
one. Yeah, totally.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, that's real. That's how it went down.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. Of all of the things that you've accomplished and evolved into in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Honestly, it's really easy. It's my two sons.
Yeah.
They're 15 and 13 right now, and I was divorced from their mom also about the time they were 3 and 4 and 5-ish. And and so they've grown up in two households and they've grown up with very different ways of thinking and the coordination and co-parenting that goes into that. And I was pretty hard on them. I was pretty clear and consistent, but possibly a little too heavy because I was thin and um, I don't know. I'm a little quirky. I've got a little bit of a sound sensitivity. So if somebody's chewing too loud or doing something that should be perfectly fine, I'm like wanting to leave the room or say something. And so they got that, but I did it with kindness as often as I could. I apologized so many times. That was something I was not afraid to do. And I asked them for grace. And even by doing it, it made me do better next time. And as we grew together, the type of seventh and ninth graders that they are current day is just unreal. I'm humbled by what they do because they already operate with other people, inquisitive nature into what's going on in their lives, um, hard work and discipline, happy to help, whether they're asked or they'll look for things that they can do on their own and not be asked and do a little extra. I mean, it's all that stuff you hear that you really want to teach even in an adult. And I look at these two boys and I'm like, man, you guys are all right. You're gonna do just fine.
Yeah.
And so that's certainly my proudest moment. I mean, business, I've had some successes and I've had failures, and um, they're good, and there'll be more of
Yeah,
both.
for
But
sure.
yeah, those two, that's how I would grade myself.
Right on. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that knows you, but you're in control. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think my perception of me is a bit of a promoter of a an unknown life. I think there's a life that people want to live, and they may even be a little too afraid to even whisper it to themselves. It's too dangerous to hope for it, and I feel like I'm so far and extreme that hope is a dangerous word for me, and so I understand it. But if I can take something that's super big like that and a life and a maybe, and can I do I keep saying live at the beach because that's my goal one day. We're both Midwest folks, and I'm like, there's no beach here. I need a beach, and like a lake beach isn't the same. And so, if somebody wants to see running of the bulls or whatever, all of that, and if I can help make that granular and even just make them see what I can see in them, what I can see, it's like, no, 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 you really are no different than any other person you see on any podcast, than anybody that you see on any TV show that you see anywhere. You actually can just do the same type of decision making processes and you'll get the same results. And I've seen many of the visualizations of everybody starts at a start line. It says take two steps forward if this, and take two steps forward if this, and then everybody starts a race at a different place. That is very true, I think, in all categories of life. So we don't start at the same place. It might be harder for someone to buy $4 million in real estate, but maybe you'll have to do an additional front load of 2, 3, 4 years first
Yeah.
to then be at that new start line and be able to take off and go. So I, I'm a bit of a strategist dreamer, and I'll help people get to whatever their goals are and whatever they actually want for their own true life play out to be.
So if anyone wants to reach out, they have questions, they want to hire you, any of the good business, where do they go?
Yep, trevorshade.com.
Okay.
Yep, trevorshade.com. We can probably put it in the videos, or
Yeah.
if you take a best guess at my name, because of my background in all these companies, I Google quite nicely.
Yeah,
I show up
absolutely.
everywhere in my cell number and everything. So feel free. Yes,
Okay.
trevorshade.com.
And I will put it in the show notes. Trevor, this has been great, man.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time.
Likewise. Thanks, Joe. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.